and where to put the commas, we have a common goal, which is liberty and freedom. We have no choice but to stay on the path. We have no choice. We cannot divert. We will not change that course. And despite what it costs or takes, we will accomplish our goals accordingly. Once you have that mindset, once you lock into the target and don't deviate. Remember that old Star Wars? Remember the guys, the first guys? Everybody always loves the movie Star Wars. It just came out again. John always hates it when I refer to it. But everybody remember something? There's a set of guys everybody seems to forget. It's the first bunch that went in to attack the Death Star to go into the trench. Because they all know how they're going to die. But they did it anyway. In history, we've seen this time and again. Because the greater cause at that particular point in time meant that we expend our lives perhaps as part of the greater payment. Well, I can accept that. That's not martyrdom. It's just the idea. Common sense is what anybody who values the Constitution and Bill of Rights has to be willing to accept in order for it to survive. And the more of us that do it, the more likely none of us will have to pay with our lives, unfortunately. We do not, and in fact our enemy fears this most of all, that every one of us leaving here goes out and teaches somebody, that they teach somebody else. And there are so many of us that nobody will follow their blasted orders. That's what they're scared to death of. I've tried to explain this to militia people, the concept of discipline. Certainly we have numbers, but it's discipline. It is the demonstrated capability to sit down, put this between the ears, and keep it working to use it on them that terrifies them the most. It is the discipline to stand together in spite of diversity, in spite of adversity. Diversity. Boy, that was a slip from you. You know that? I slap you anytime I do things like this. Diversity. Well, same thing, because I'm going to get something else here in a minute. But adversity is something that we seem to, it's like it's easy when we're coasting along. And of course that's always true. But we have already weathered, as the Patriot movement, things that most people could not even have comprehended before their experience. And that most people claim that they probably took place we wouldn't be able to stand. The Oklahoma bombing is a benchmark. It was a completely contrived and fabricated event. Its purpose was to attack the Patriot movement. Its second purpose, actually its primary purpose, was first to change the meaning of April 19th. Originally that was also always known as Patriots' Day. After Waco, it definitely had a meaning as Patriots' Day because we promised we would never see anything like that happen again in this nation. And there's not a man that I've met who said that who doesn't still believe that. It's just that it's not as hot right now because it's not in front of them. Time, as it said, always heals wounds. Heals all wounds. Well, now we've come full circle. We're looking at these events being churned back up and being used against us. Oklahoma's other mission, of course, was to attack the Patriot movement. If you don't think so, the gentleman here got some of the stuff that I need to use, and I'm going to be sitting down and taking the time, I have to do this, is there were virtually tens and tens of hours, hundreds of hours of satellite feeds that none of you ever saw, that were sent out to the networks in advance or to be used over a series of days, which were fabricated stories to be released in 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute bursts. They were pre-canned events. But because of how we made contact and how some people when the Patriot movement turned, dug their heels in and kicked back, we were not only did we not have to retreat, we held ground and even took ground back from the enemy. If the whole of the Patriot movement had ducked and rolled, I won't say hold, but a lot of people had decided that I'm being hulled down or we got to dodge. If everybody had turned and bit back, not only would they have lost ground, we would be able to catch them in the act. As it is, we caught them badly. It's been 2 years since Oklahoma. We are still here. We've had casualties. We've had other problems, and we'll address that over the evening. But it's interesting to note that when you look at the actual numbers, first of all, we're in the tens of millions. That for the number of casualties we've had, which can be measured less than, say, 60 as far as individuals with public events that have taken place, that we fared fairly well, and we've learned from each one of the actions great lessons. So we've been tuning our machine while the opposition's been tuning theirs. Now, with regard to that, and again, this is a good example. I just got this. The good old University of Michigan, where I work, just had the Global Citizenship Program. Let's see, I'll make sure I get the name right here. Leadership Development through the Business School, developing the business leaders of the future. Well, the global business leaders of the future, mostly from outside the United States. The sponsors you might recognize. This is typical of major aggressor. And when I say this, if I use military terms, it's because this is a war. The court, my favorite, and I thank the person who gave this to me. You know the basic rules of the courtroom. First of all, the courtroom is a battlefield. The judge is your enemy. The prosecutor, an enemy general, and your lawyer, an enemy spy. Ameritech Corporation. Remember, does anybody remember my favorite Ameritech ad when we were here last time, many years ago? There was a little Ameritech ad that they had with a guy who's got this headset. It's a real modern scene with a big plate glass window up from a skyscraper, looking out into the skyscape in the background. And these guys are looking at these controls and they're adjusting knobs, and you hear this voice on the phone. And then they go to a dinner party where this guy is sitting at the dinner table, he's in a tux, and you're, a phone for you, Mr. Douglas. And the guy, of course, will thank you, and he takes the phone, he picks it up, and meanwhile, says, and the overview is, even while you're using the phone, AT&T is listening in to improve the quality of your numbers. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're listening in for a lot of other reasons. After all, the biggest spy network on the planet. Everybody uses the phones, and every business does. If you wanted to invest in stocks, wouldn't you? Why, of course you would. So first we got Ameritech. Now, Anderson Consulting Strategic Services. This is an oddball group, but I've got a little background on them I'll cover probably later on down the road here. Ford Motor Company, Moco, they're just across the street from where we are right now, aren't they?
Oh, right here.
Yep, up that way. That's right. I pointed that way. They're that way.
They're everywhere.
The Procter and Gamble Company. That's right. 2 stars and a crescent moon for you. Oops. That's right. That's that little horns and devil thing. Warner Lambert Company. Well, they're right here out of Michigan too. But believe me, if you know what Wackenhut, Wackenhut is. Wackenhut Corp and Warner Lambert are tied in quite closely, and Warner and of course Wackenhut is involved in a lot of other operations that are very shady, to say the least, including private prisons, as we all know.
Oh, yeah.
And last but not least, well, that's right, Whirlpool Corporation. Everything's got to be cleaned up when the mess is made. So these are your global citizenship program sponsors, supporting companies. Now, I just got the entire booklet here, and it was a global New World Order fest. It took place over at Palmer Field, and fortunately, we have a lot of people whose job it is to smile, act like students, get right in there where they can talk and get close and rub shoulders, ooh and on, pat them on the head too, and get their information and drag it out. And that way they get all the stuff that is used to propagandize the students. Now, I'm not going to review all of this completely, I don't think it's necessary, but again, this is the very first few days of the school year. This has already started. They're on a very hard, fast track. This year especially, they want to get as much done as quickly as possible to initiate the globalist agenda and the New World Order agenda. And that, I think, is again, a demonstration of what's happening across the United States and also internationally. First of all, I like this. How many people noticed that Boris Yeltsin, everybody will recall this, Boris Yeltsin just stated that they finally decided that they're going to promise that if we give them more money, they're not going to point Russian missiles at us anymore. Everybody catch that? You know what the problem with that is? Didn't Bill Clinton say in his State of the Union address 2 years ago that for the first time in American history, no American boys and girls have Russian warheads pointed at them? I know what happened. They told me that it's only going to kill the adults. Right? But you might recall 3 years before that, that we had 4 years, Mr.